Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the Rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our congregation. At this time, I'd like to engage you in the following question. How close can you get to God? In the famous old joke, the good man of simple faith answers the question, what is God's name? By saying, Andy. When queried, he elaborates. It says so in the Bible. Andy walks with me. Andy talks with me. Beyond the simple faith of that good man is a question that can engage all of us, whether simple or sophisticated. How do you walk with God? How do you talk with God? How do you relate to the reality that is so fundamentally different from yourself? How does finite me relate to the infinite and find a way for it to be a thou, a presence, rather than just an abstraction, an it? Our Bible story this week covers this ground with dramatic sweep and profound insight. In the popular imagination, the story of the golden calf centers on the egregious sin of the Israelites and then the shattering consequence of their punishment. The story has its grisly parts, but the story does not end there. The narrative focus returns to Moses, alone again on the mountaintop, praying for God's mercy and receiving a second chance at preparing tablets of the covenant to bring to the Israelite. The story is ultimately not only about tragedy, it is about restoration after tragedy. In the meantime, Moses reaches a spiritual height that the Bible has not yet disclosed. He successfully intercedes with God to pardon the people as a whole and to remain personally engaged in guiding them forward towards their promised destiny and destination. This is Moses at his greatest. And then, perhaps flush with his success at being the peacemaker between God and community, did Moses ask for one boon too much? Listen to the following exchange, Exodus verses 18 to 23. He, Moses, said, "Show me, pray, your glory." And he, God, said, "I shall make all my goodness pass in front of you, and I shall invoke the name of the Lord before you, and I shall grant grace to whom I shall grant grace, and have compassion for whom I have compassion." And he said, "You shall not be able to see my face, for no human can see me and live." And the Lord said, "Look, there is a place with me, and you shall take your stance on the crag. And so, when my glory passes over, I shall put you in the cleft of the crag and shield you with my palm until I have passed over. And I shall take away my palm, and you will see my back, but my face will not be seen." We understand that Moses asked for something beyond what was appropriate. But what was it? The biblical term kavod, translated here as glory, refers to some sort of cloud-like presence in which God is to be found, as in the scene in the temple in Isaiah chapter 6, where the kavod of God fills the sanctuary space. However we depict it, Moses had sought to know more than is within mortal capabilities. Reading this passage, and I have pondered it for over half a century, since my yeshiva, parochial school teacher, first taught it to us in 5th grade, I think that God is letting Moses down easy. God is telling Moses, as I understand this cryptic passage, that while God and human intelligence are incommensurate, what the human mind can understand is the goodness of God. One of the key insights of modern philosophy was the demonstration by Immanuel Kant that we cannot escape the prison of our own perceiving and signifying apparatus. The world looks the way it looks to us not because it is automatically just that way, but because our machinery of perception and understanding have certain biases that we can never transcend. Kant tells us that we know only the way in which the, quote, thing in itself, close quote, registers on our consciousness, not on how it is in some absolute sense. If this is true of the things of the world, then all the more so is it true when the reality we crave to know is God, not confined to the space and time that shape our intuitions and set limits to our imagination. God is beyond knowing, but it does not follow that God is beyond all relationship. God assures Moses that it is possible to sense God's goodness passing by. As I have lived and loved and lost, and sometimes won, this truth has become more and more central to me. If you want to connect with the godly, connect with the good. If you want to feel God at work, do good. Of course, this is not new. The rabbis of old understood it all. Rabbi Chama said in the name of Rabbi Hanina, quoting Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 5, "Follow the Lord your God." What does this mean? Is it possible for a mortal to follow God's presence? The verse means to teach us that we should follow the attributes of the Holy One. As God clothes the naked, you should clothe the naked. The Bible teaches us that the Holy One visited the sick. You should visit the sick. The Holy One comforted those who mourned. You should comfort those who mourn. The Holy One buried the dead. You should bury the dead. And this comes from the Babylonian Talmud, the tractate Sotah, page 14a. We cannot seriously aspire to the level of Moses, but each of us can walk in the path that he laid out. Quest for God's presence, but be comforted when you receive only a portion of what you yearn for, to know that goodness is the path of walking with God.